Okay, in this video lesson, we're going to be working with multiplication of mixed numbers. Let's look down here at our student expectation 6.3e. It says to multiply and divide positive rational numbers fluently, and this is a readiness TEK. So you must be able to multiply and divide positive rational numbers, which includes fractions and decimals. In this video lesson, we're working with fractions, but more specifically, we are working with fractions that are greater than 1. Take a look at 6.3b. It says to determine with or without computation, that means without solving, whether a quantity is increased or decreased when multiplied by a fraction, including values greater than or less than 1. Now that may sound confusing, but let me give you an example. Let's say we start with a number such as 2. Well, if we multiply that times, say, a value less than 1, such as a fraction of 1/2, well, our original value of 2 is going to decrease because we're multiplying by a value less than 1 of 1/2. But if we multiply the same value 2 times, say, a mixed number or an improper fraction such as 5/4, which would work out to 1 1/4, then our answer is going to increase. It's just the difference in multiplying by a value greater than 1 or less than 1. Okay, let's look at some steps here for working specifically with multiplication of mixed numbers. All right, for instance, mixed numbers is something such as 2 3/4. Okay, well, the first thing you need to do is to convert mixed numbers to improper fractions. And we'll work on that. And then once you've converted it to improper fractions, then you just multiply the numerators and then multiply the denominators and, of course, simplify the product if possible. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look at example 1. This says that Jimmy bought 2 3/4 dozen donuts. There are 12 donuts in a dozen. So how many donuts did Jimmy buy? Okay, so let's talk about this. We have 2 3/4 dozen. Okay, now we know that there's 12 donuts in every dozen, so we need to multiply this times 12. Now let's remember though, we're multiplying the dozen times 12, so our new answer is going to be how many dozen, and then we can convert that to how many donuts. Okay, first thing we need to do is to convert this mixed number into an improper fraction. Now some of you have, there's a couple different strategies for this. It's the same, there's just different terms. Some of you know it as a popcorn method, where we multiply the, we multiply 4 times 2 plus 3 over 4. Some of you may know it as the Texas method. But regardless, when we do that, 4 times 2 is 8, plus 3 is 11, and then we put that over 4. So we could rewrite this as a fraction of 11 over 4. Then we're multiplying times 12, and since we're working with a fraction, we're going to turn 12 into a fraction by putting it as 12 over 1. Now we simply have fractions that we can multiply, our numerators and our denominators. Okay, and when we multiply 11 times 12, we get 132. And then when we multiply 4 times 1, of course, we get 4. Now this is an improper fraction, and the way that we simplify it is we divide up, or we just read it. It says 132 divided by 4. So let's go ahead and just work it out. 132 divided by 4. Well, 4 does not go into 1, but 4 goes into 13 3 times. 4 times 3 is 12. When we subtract from 13, we get a remainder of 1. I'm going to go ahead and bring down our 2 here. Now it says 12 again. 4 goes into 12 3 times. And of course it is 12, and we do not have a remainder. So what we have here is 33 donuts. So again, our answer is 33 donuts. That is 2 3/4 dozen donuts. It's 33. Okay, let's look at example 2. says a recipe for chocolate chip cookies calls for 1.5 cups of sugar. Destiny is making 2.5 times the original recipe. How much sugar will Destiny need? All right. Again, we have a recipe, and it calls for 1.5 cups of sugar. But that's for the original recipe. Destiny wants to make 2.5 times the original recipe. So that means we're going to multiply this times 2.5. Well, what we have are just two mixed numbers. Again, step one is to convert them to improper fractions by multiplying, by using the popcorn method, if you want to remember it as that. So when we multiply, 2 times 1 is 2, plus 1 is 3 over 2. So the 1.5 would become 3 halves, and then we'd multiply that times 2 times 2 is 4, plus 1 is 5 over 2 times 5 halves. Then we just multiply straight across. 5 times 3 is 15, and 2 times 2 is 4. Again, we have an improper fraction, and we read that 15 divided by 4. Well, we could set that up, or we can just try to figure this out. 15 divided by 4. Well, we know that 4 goes into 12 exactly 3 times, and we know that our remainder from 12 to 15 is a remainder of 3, and we put that over our 4. So we couldn't quite get to 4, but it was 3 3/4 cups of sugar is what she is going to need to make 2.5 times that original recipe. Okay, so that's a look at multiplying fractions when you're actually using mixed numbers that you convert to improper fractions.